Okay, we're going to get started, sound problems or not. This talk is supposed to have some videos in it, and the sound isn't working. So for the videos, I'm going to try and stick this mic up to my laptop speaker and see if that works. Hopefully they get it sorted out, because the first video is in 2 slides. Okay, the talk is called Buy a Plunger Before You Need a Plunger. The title of the talk, there was a Reddit post that came up, this was a couple months back, and the question was, what's the best life advice anybody has ever given you? And this was one of the answers, buy a plunger before you need a plunger. And at the time, I was I was extending some of our event tracking code to answer a question that my boss asked me, like, hey, how many times do users do X? And we did not have that information. So I was sort of retroactively putting in stuff that should have been there in the first place, right? So yeah, that's where it came from. So every talk needs a theme. I decided the theme for this talk should be of one of the greatest, if not the greatest movie ever made, Mel Brooks' Spaceballs. So here we go with the first clip of Spaceballs. So the talk's broken up into different sections. Between every section, we're going to have a mental break and just watch a Spaceballs clip. That has nothing to do with the content of the talk, but it's late on a Friday, so it's probably for the best. Okay, let's see how this sound thing works. All right.
There's our princess. She's got company. No, Spaceballs. They've already got her in their magnetic beam. Oh, well, we're too late. What a shame. I'll just throw in reverse. We'll get out of here.
Not bad.
No, bad. Oh, what are we doing risking our lives for a runaway princess? I know we need the money.
Listen, we're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right. Okay, we save her. But how? The minute we move in there, they're going to spot us on their radar.
Not if we jam it.
You're right.
Down scope.
Down scope. Radar about to be jammed.
Such a good movie.
Sir,
What is it?
can I talk to the phone, please, sir?
Well,
I'm trying to hear, sir.
you don't need that private. We're right here. Now, what is it?
I'm trying to hear, sir.
Now, what is it?
I'm having trouble with the radar, sir.
What's wrong with it?
I've lost the bleeps, I've lost the sweeps, and I've lost the creeps.
The what? The what? And the what?
You know, the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
That's not all he's lost.
Sir, the radar, sir. It appears to be jammed.
Jammed. Raspberry.
There's only one man who would dare give me the raspberry. Lone Star.
All right. Such a good movie. All right. Okay, so there's a few things as a developer writing an app that you should do besides coding. And they fall into a couple of these categories: crash reporting, log management, event tracking, beta distribution, and continuous integration. So you should report your crashes. They should get sent to you. Any warn or error logs shouldn't stay on a user device. They should get back to you. You should know how people are using your apps. You should have people testing your apps before they go and hit the store. And you should have things that run on every commit to make sure that merging is fine, branching is fine, that you're not going to break your builds. I'd say the top 3 should really be done before you even start a line of code, right? Those are just as important as coding. But they're difficult, they're time consuming, and it doesn't feel like you're building your app, right? You're not building business logic. They almost don't seem valuable right out of the gate. So there's a few reasons why they're hard. So this talk's going to try and solve those for you. So the first is that there's a lot of options. So you have to pick one of these services. So the first maybe half of this talk, I'm going to go through most of these at a very high level, and it's going to be a little demo of a bunch of services. So if you haven't seen any, now you're going to see them. All right, we're going to talk about a bunch of them. Some of them span multiple areas. They might be crash reporting and event tracking, for example. All right, so we'll start off with crash reporting. All right, so this is part of Twitter's suite called Crashlytics. Most of you have probably seen it, but if not, we're going to go through it. So this is Crashlytics. Top right, you have a list of your apps. You can select one of your apps, and then you see the crashes that happen. So you click on a crash, you'll get the details of it, the number of times it happened, stats on the phone. You can look at the log for it. And then back up at the top, there's this close button. You click it, and a big stamp comes down and says it's closed. All right, so that's Crashlytics. So that's what I'm going to do for a bunch of services. So if you're not interested in seeing like a quick demo of a bunch of stuff, I won't feel bad if you guys leave. That's cool. Spaceballs fans everywhere might be upset, but I won't take it personally. All right, so that's Crashlytics. It looks fantastic. I think that's why a lot of people use it. I think they probably have like 5 hyperactive designers for every 1 engineer on their team. It's a beautiful product. It's also free, so it sort of makes sense to use that one. All right. PagerDuty is a tool to support or to facilitate callouts. So if something goes wrong, somebody should be notified that has to go fix it, even if it's 3 in the morning. So this is a little demo of PagerDuty. So here's our PagerDuty that we use at work. You can see all the events that happened. So I'll click on one of the events, and you'll see it got triggered by an email that came in that said one of our servers couldn't be pinged. And it got assigned to Matt. Matt assigned it to Laurent. Laurent marked it as resolved. So that's what, and there's a bunch of ways to feed things into PagerDuty to trigger these things. This is how you make a schedule. So you'll see Matt's on schedule, then Mikhail, then Evan. So to make these schedules, you have your users in the system. You pick a user, and then you pick the days and the times that they're available. So it'll chain them together, and then you have a schedule. And then you can make escalation policies. So when an event comes in, it'll hit the first schedule. In this case, it goes to backend. If they don't respond in 10 minutes, it goes to ops. If they don't respond in 10 minutes, it'll go to our VP of ops. And then when events come in, you get alerts, and you can see incidents, and they have some reporting stuff. So that's PagerDuty. This is what PagerDuty costs. It's a little bit pricey, $9 per month per user, up to $99, depending on the feature set you want. They have a 14-day free trial. All right, event tracking. So Mixpanel is one of the tools that you can use to track events. This is what Mixpanel looks like. Okay, so top left, list of apps. And then here's all the events that get sent in. So you just send a string. It's a literal string. It can be anything you want. So here's the events that happened. This graph, the x-axis is the days. So this graph is the number of times that event has come in per day. And it shows like today versus last week versus a week back, how many events came in and how they changed. You can set up funnels. So a funnel, I'll make one here. It's demo funnel. So our app has a screen to approve things. So here I put approval screen viewed, and I'm going to say where the app version is, the latest version of our app, and I can add more stuff there too. And then I'll say post was approved, so post set approved. And I show here, you can keep going with these things. You could say one event then another. So this says, for this date range, 15 people did the first event, and of those, 2/3 of them proceeded and did the second event. And if you had more events, you could keep chaining those together. The retention tab, you can pick an event, and it'll show for that event how many times a person who did it once, how many people came back and did it again the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. So if you're trying to build a feature that's sticky, this is good data on that. Now I'm going to go to the live view here. This is where Mixpanel, I think, shines a lot. Their live view is very fast. Some of the event tracking things sort of batch things up, and it seems like you don't get them for about an hour. Mixpanel, if you send it an event, it'll pop up within a second or two. So every event has a user tied to it, so it keeps a profile. Here's a buddy I work with, Mohit. So here's his device, a bunch of information. I didn't have to send this. The Mixpanel SDK just pulls that in. And then it shows all the events that he did over different days. And for each event, there's a bunch of standard information, and you can also add your own extra metadata if you want to. Things like app version, city, manufacturer, all that stuff you get by default. All right, so that's Mixpanel. So Mixpanel is free if you are under 2,500 data points per month. If you go over, they won't let you graph anymore. They keep collecting your data so you don't lose anything. But if you break that threshold, you have a few options you can pay. So for 150 bucks a month, you get 500,000 data points. If you're still sort of bootstrapping yourself, if you're still in startup mode, they have this option where you can put their logo, like a little badge, in your footer of your website, and then they give you 200,000 data points. That's an option. And then if you've got a ton of data, you can scale up pretty high. All right. So I'm going to go through a few more analytics tools, and you'll see they're fairly similar. So Google Analytics, I don't have great data in here. It's more test data. But again, you have a list. They call them properties. You click on a property, which maps usually one-to-one with an app. So this overview will show users and sessions and where your users are located. The events that come in, you can see them and map them either daily, weekly, or monthly. And then under audience, this is, again, user data. This shows the number of users in your app, their session length, where they're from, stuff like that. So it's very similar to the Mixpanel. Again, they have reporting and stuff. It's free, another free tool. Or if you want, you could give them $150,000 to get some training. Okay, Flurry. You guys okay? There's another Spaceballs video soon. I think I turned myself. Okay, here's Flurry. So Flurry was acquired a couple years back by Yahoo. It used to be probably like the de facto standard event tracking that most people would put into an Android and an iOS app. Now there's so many other options, people pick and choose. So here's Flurry. Again, you get a list of apps. You can click on one of the apps. And their first screen you get is just the number of sessions per day. That's graphed out, and then some other graphs like the number of errors that you got, the session frequency, where your users are located. Under events, here we were just sending in the activity name as a string, but again, that could be whatever you want. It's just a string. And it also does crash reporting. So this is one of the tools that does a bunch of things. Crash reporting is one of them. If you were to click on a crash, you can see the stack trace. And again, users shows user differences over time. So that's Flurry. Flurry is also free. They have an SDK for iOS, Android, BlackBerry, Windows Phone, never heard of that, and mobile web. Okay. And the last one is something a little out of the box. It's called Graphite. So Graphite is a server, and the only thing it accepts is to send it data in this format, which is any metric name, and then a value, which is either an int or a float, and an optional timestamp. So you can send data that looks like this. If you exclude the timestamp, it'll just use the current time. So I could say, here's the number of tasks that's open in some task system, and it can go down and up. And then with that data, you can put tools on top of Graphite to let you graph that data. So this can be very powerful. At work, we have a bunch of monitors with a ton of Graphite graphs on them, and they show everything from our server load to the number of requests per second to ping times, like open tickets, you know, a bunch of stuff. You can graph whatever you want in Graphite. If you use Graphite, there's quite a few tools that let you do the graphing over top. This is one of them called Grafana. And yeah, so Graphite is open source if you're willing to run it yourself in-house. If you don't want to maintain a server and the software, you can do something like hosted Graphite. Again, there's quite a few of these options to do Graphite sort of in the cloud and just send it data. And those sites will also give you the graphing tools on top of it. Hosted Graphite, 14-day free trial, about $20 a month. That limits you to not 100 entries, but like 100 of those buckets of things. All right, you guys ready? Good. This is why you came.
Good work, Corporal. Punch it up. That's much too early. Prepare to fast forward. Preparing to fast forward. Fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir.
Past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Try here. Stop.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened then?
Past it.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
When will then be now?
Soon.
How soon?
Sir.
What?
We've identified their location.
Where?
It's the moon of Vega. Good work. Set a course and prepare for our arrival.
When?
1900 hours, sir. By high noon tomorrow, they will be our prisoners.
Oh!
Such a good movie. Okay. All right. Next one up is log management. So I'm only going to cover one of these tools because they're pretty similar. Here's Papertrail. So if this video starts, there we go. Okay. So if you send, if a bunch of machines or a bunch of phones send data to Papertrail, it just looks like a single log. So that first screen was a list of applications. I can click on one, and this looks like one terminal output, but this is actually the merging of a bunch of logs coming together. So you can do this for servers, which is common, or like I said, you can do it so that if you get a warning or an error on your phone, those log.es don't just stay on the user's device and mean nothing. Papertrail is free up to 100 megs a month. They have a 14-day free trial, and then after that, it scales up from there. All right, beta distribution. I'm not going to talk about Google Play's beta distribution. I thought most people have probably seen that, so I'm going to talk about alternatives, two alternatives. So the first one's Hockey App. So we use Hockey App at work. This is what our console looks like. So you have a list of applications, and up at the top, teams. So if you click on teams, we have a bunch of teams set up. If you click on a team, you can click that blue invite users button, enter some information in their email. Then with a team, you can go to apps and add an app to a team. So that team now has access to this application. Alternatively, you can go back, you can click on the app, you can hit this invite users button and just enter a user's email. So you can either have ad hoc users on an app or teams with apps assigned to them. And this is what the email looks like that they get to download it. So there's a download button, and that little square was to open up a QR code. They also do crash reporting. So I clicked on a version of the app, go under crashes. So this crash came in 3 times. Click on it, and again, here's the stack trace. You can mark it as resolved, stuff like that. So that's Hockey app. There's no free tier on Hockey app, $30 a month for 15 apps and 3 users, up to $500 a month. This is a cool one. It's lesser known, but it's probably my favorite of them. It's called Test Ferry. I saw some people with Test Ferry shirts. Are there any Test Ferriers in the room? One? Awesome. All right. Hopefully I do you justice. So here's a list of apps. Surprise, surprise. If you click on one of the apps, you'll see all the versions of the app. So I'm going to select one of the versions here that got uploaded, and then this shows all the sessions for this app. So that version of this app had 8 sessions that are run. So this is the cool thing with Test Ferry. You click on it, and you get a video recording of what the user did while they were running your app. So the yellow shows what their finger movement was, so you can actually see what happened. So this app gets backgrounded, then if you watch at the end, it's going to come out of the background and it's going to crash. So it crashed there. So as that video is playing, you can see these graphs update. You can see the memory on the phone, the CPU on the phone, the network, and the signal of the phone. So here I'm like moving the slider, and you can see those graphs actually show what the state of the phone was at that time. Whenever the UI changes, it takes a screenshot for you. You can see the logcat output while that session was running. And this app had crashed, so it also gives you a stack trace. It's a really cool tool. The tester setup is very easy. You enter email addresses, and you can add the tester to one or more groups. The other cool thing with Test Ferry, you don't have to put a line of code in your APK. You just upload it, and it wraps it in their own APK and adds all this stuff automatically. So we had actually switched from Test Ferry to Hockey app because they switched their free tier, and it was a little too small for us, and their paid tier was a little too pricey for us, and our iOS guys were already using Hockey app and paying for it, so we just jumped on there. Recently, they've upgraded their free tier. It used to only be 2 apps, and we do 5 at work, so we broke that limit. So now the free tier is 10 apps, 1,000 testers, and 1 admin can go in there. And they have 2 other tiers here depending on the number of apps, testers, or administrators that you want. So that's Test Ferry. CI is the last one we're going to talk about. I'm not going to cover Jenkins. We had a Jenkins talk. My only advice for Jenkins, I talked about this with the guy who spoke about it earlier at lunch. My advice is if your company wants to do Jenkins, don't be the person who sets it up, because then you'll be the Jenkins guy for the rest of your life. So I'm going to talk about some cloud ones, Circle CI and Travis. So this is what Circle CI looks like. All right, so the branches are listed here on the left, and then all the commits are on the right. So you'll see I have 2 failed commits at the top here. So I switch, and I'm going to push up some changes to an open PR. I'm going to switch back, and then you'll see this commit just got queued up. So if I click on it, in this case I expected it to go right to running, but it wasn't. So you can see what it is stuck behind under this queued tab, and says, okay, it's going to take a little while to start up. So instead of waiting, I went to a different branch and clicked on one of the successful PRs. So this is what you would see if something actually started to run. So this is each item in my test script. And if I click on it, you'll see the terminal output for that command. So here's our run test command. So as this is running, if this was running, it would actually just show in real time the output of that command. So my PR right now is yellow because it's waiting for the test to run. They'll turn green once they pass. So that's the advantage of Circle CI and Travis, is they have really tight integration with Git and GitHub. Circle CI is free, whether or not you're run an open source project, as long as you only do one container, so you can't parallelize your tests. And then you pay $50 a month per container that you put on top. Travis is very similar. Repos are on the left, all your commits are on the right. You click on one of the commits, and you can see the output from it. As it runs, it'll either be green or red, whether it passes or fails. And again, that updates the build status on the PR in GitHub. If you're doing an open source project, Travis is free. Then their pricing tiers are $130 for 2 concurrent jobs, up to about $500 for 10 concurrent jobs. Their only other free option is they give you a free trial, which only lets you build 100 times. All right. You guys ready? Yes? Okay.
Prepare to attack.
Prepare to attack!
On the count of 3. 1, 2, late!
What happened? Where are they? I don't know, sir. They must have hyperjets on that thing.
And what do we got on this thing? A Cuisinart?
No, sir.
We'll find them, catch them!
Yes, sir. Prepare ship for light speed.
No, light speed is too slow.
Light speed too slow?
Yes, we're gonna have to go right to ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed. Sir, we've never gone that fast before. I don't know if the ship can take it.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?
Prepare ship! Prepare ship for ludicrous speed. Fasten all seatbelts. Seal all entrances and exits. Close all shops in the mall. Cancel the 3-ring circus. Secure all animals in the zoo.
Give me that, you petty excuse for an officer. Now hear this. Ludicrous speed.
Sir, had you better buckle up?
Buckle this. Ludicrous speed. Go! Baseball 1. They've gone to plaid.
Such a good movie. All right. Okay. I keep turning this off. Okay. Do you guys want to hear my suggestions? Yes. Okay. This is what I would suggest if I was building a fresh app. So for crash reporting, I would pick Crashlytics. For log management, I'd go with Papertrail. Coming up with this talk, I had this realization that event tracking out of these 5 is probably the hardest one to do because it's a lot of data management and a lot of graphing and tooling, but all of them are free. So I don't know how or why that is, but that's the case. So I would use any or all of them. You might as well just like make a little utility that sends them everywhere. You know, send in one event and just send it out to as many of these services as you want. I would use TestFairy for beta distribution, and for CI, it's really important and you need it, but you're just gonna have to bite the bullet and do the legwork to get it set up. There's no nice just like send my APK here and have my tests run. All right, so I built an open source library that also makes sending data to all these things easier. So this is the last bit of my talk. It's about a project called Foam, or an Android library called Foam. So the problem with these things, now that you know about all of them, is so starting with Android development is usually really fast, but adding these things is slow. It can easily take like a day or two to integrate one of those libraries into your apps. So it sucks so let's use Mixpanel as an example. So you have to check to see if there's any existing libraries out there. There's either not and you have to roll one, or there's multiple and you have to pick one, or there's one and then you have to read the docs. And the docs are usually pretty terrible. And then you usually come up with your own like little way to hook it into your app, because you don't want to pollute on create and on destroy with all this event tracking code. So you make some utilities, and it probably doesn't work exactly how how it should. I gave this talk once before, and it was to non-developers. So I showed this. This is a little video of how to start up an Android project. So the whole video is, let's see, so it's 40 seconds. So in 40 seconds, you can click New Project. It'll generate a new project. You can click Play, and it'll launch it on an emulator. So getting started with Android development is really easy. And probably 20 seconds of this is compile time. Fucking Dex. Okay. And networking stuff has become really easy too, right? So with retrofit, you can just make a POJO that looks like the data that you're getting back, and then with an interface, you can just define what your API looks like, and boom, you're done, right? So getting started with Android development is easy. Networking has become easy. A lot of the things that used to be difficult have become easy. The difficult things now are like building that business logic, and that's why you get paid, right? You get paid to turn company business logic into an app that's useful to somebody. So that stuff will always be hard, because it needs to be hard. But all this event tracking stuff is still hard, but I don't think it should be. It should be easy like this. So this is what Foam tries to do. Foam tries to make this easy for you. So I took this from the README that I have on our Git repository. It says, you have a small team setting up crash reporting tools, event tracking tools, and log management services is not what you want to spend your hours doing. You know, these are important to the health of your app, but you just want to code. So that's where Foam comes into play. So these are all the services that Foam supports. The ones with stars are the ones where Foam is the only Android library that's built for them. That's a feather in the cap, I guess. That's pretty cool. So this is what Foam looks like. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit here. So you already have your... So if you have an application class, you change that to a Foam application class, and then you add this Foam API keys annotation to your application class, and then you put in the API keys. So I'm going to put in my Google Analytics API key. Suddenly this app is now sending events. Anytime somebody opens a screen, that event will go to Google Analytics. I'm also going to do Mixpanel. So this app now has events being sent to Mixpanel. Papertrail, so I'm going to put in my Papertrail URL. Now anytime a warning or an error gets logged, that goes to Papertrail. And log entries. So now I'm going to paste in this whole set of API keys. Okay, so now this app is sending data to PagerDuty, Papertrail, Hockey App, Flurry, Mixpanel, Google Analytics, log entries, and Graphite. That's all you have to do. It's done. I was going to say something else here. Oh yeah, if you extend multi-dex, we have a Foam multi-dex application. If you have another application class, it's actually just an interface that you have to implement on your application class, and you really just need a getter. It returns an object that you initialize for us, so it's 2 or 3 lines of code. All right, zoom out here. Okay. You need one permission in your manifest, which is internet, which you probably already have. We support min SDK 14 and up. Of course, you have to define that application class in your manifest, and we rely on retrofit and JSON. So you can grab it at from our GitHub page, Percolate/foam, and we built this so that it should be easy to add other services to it. So if we missed one in that list and you want to add it, please go ahead, jump in, make a PR. We'd be happy to take a look and merge that for you. If you don't really have the chops to do that, open up an issue and just say, hey, it would be great if you guys could support X, and we'll take a look at it. One more? Call it a day? All right.
What's the matter with this thing? What's all that churning and bubbling? You call that a radar screen?
No, sir. We call it Mr. Coffee. Care for some?
Yes! I always have coffee when I watch radar. You know that.
Of course I do, sir.
Everybody knows that.
Of course we do, sir!
Now that I have my coffee, I'm ready to watch radar. Where is it?
Right here, sir.
All right, that's all I got. Any questions? Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that goes to your beta testers. That won't hit the store, right? So however much overhead it adds, it probably doesn't really matter to you. But you can talk to the guy in the red shirt if you have any more questions about TestFairy. I thought you worked there. Okay, we'll talk to him anyway. Okay, yeah.
Since you use Mixpanel for events and Obia for distribution, why you don't use Crashlytics?
We did do Crashlytics, and crashes came in, and we weren't getting emails for them. And we went back and forth with their support department for about 2 months, and they didn't resolve it, so we switched.
And what was the event?
Sorry?
Events.
Events?
Answers has events inside.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I would use Mixpanel. It's good. It's not awesome, but our backend and front end was already using Mixpanel, so it was a requirement just so everything was in one spot. Yeah. Yeah, the events thing in Fabric's good. Yeah.
Have you taken the AppC?
No. You want to define it?
It does for all of them. It does a screen capture for your users, like something that you showed similar to that, but you have more configuration on that. It reports events and crashes as well.
Cool. AppSeek?
AppC.
I'll take a look. Anything else? Yeah, at the back. Right. No, I haven't. I've never used it, and I've never seen it. Does anybody have any experience with TeamCity? Do you like it? Yeah, I think that's what everybody shrugs when you say, hey, how does your CI? You're like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, and do you have it locally in-house? Yeah, sounds terrible. Sorry. I'm with all of them, Jenkins included, once you get it up and running, it's fine, right? Like I said, there's no real nice way with Android yet. You just have to do the legwork. And I guess of the 4 of them, I've never really heard anybody saying one is terrible. So I don't know. They're probably all fairly comparable. I mean, really, they should just be running your tests, right? Yeah. That should be it. Yeah, I guess it's sad that A component that should just run your tests is probably the hardest thing to set up. And that is critical, so it should be easy, but right now it still takes some work. All right, yep. So I guess each one's different, and each one has its own set of like reporting tools where you can make graphs. All of them also give you access to the raw data, so you can always pull it in, do whatever you want with it. For your question, I'm not sure. Yeah. All right, that's it. Thanks a lot.